Okay, so if you've been catching up and following the Francis Ngannou fiasco since leaving the UFC, you will have seen recently that he had talks with ONE FC that fell through, and the ONE FC representatives have said that he already has previous arrangements set in place. So it seemed like the talks with ONE FC were pretty much just a formality, or maybe he was just kind of gauging what deal he could potentially get from them. Now, these rumors that are circulating online all seem to be pointing towards the PFL, which is essentially the only major MMA organization that have not pulled themselves out of the race to sign Ngannou. Now, I genuinely thought that maybe his next move would be signing with a big boxing company, especially like someone in like Saudi Arabia or Dubai, something like that, sign like a big 2-3 fight deal. But the PFL deal totally makes sense. The PFL have recently just had a huge deal signed with ESPN, meaning that they probably have a lot more financial backing now. So they probably do have more funds to sign people like Francis Ngannou. And obviously having a deal with ESPN means that they have good connections in terms of like hosting boxing events, because obviously a lot of the major boxing events are held on ESPN. So the only issue with what Francis Ngannou has been doing for me is he's kind of let himself go cold, if that makes sense. So when he stepped away from the UFC, he was the biggest star at that time, and the biggest name on promoters in promoters' mouths to sign. And the way that his team have been doing business has just been so slow. His stock is slowly going down as companies like the UFC are kind of proving that they don't need him. You know, the Ngannou Jones fight has quickly taken a back seat. Now people want to see Sergey Pavlovich versus John Jones. Now, bare knuckle boxing, they're out. I mean, I don't think they were ever in the race, but it's probably unfair to say that. But they put their name away from signing Ngannou. Bellator stepped away. Now ONE FC have stepped away. So I think the big announcement coming soon is Ngannou signing for the PFL. Now, in terms of what the UFC were offering Ngannou, is, to my understanding, is they were offering him not $8 million a fight. They were offering him $8 million to fight John Jones. If he was to lose, his next fight was going to be significantly less. So they were almost intentionally, not criticizing him, but punishing him for losing, if he was to lose, against arguably the greatest MMA fighter of all time. So for Ngannou to walk away, I think it shows that, he's staying true to himself and he's doing the right thing. Also, it's almost key to see Ngannou succeed, because it paves the way for these fighters that are going to fight outside the UFC. Now, in more recent history, we've seen Mike Perry shine in bare knuckle boxing, especially after this weekend just gone. We've seen Romero leave and go to Bellator. He's fighting for a title soon. We've seen Shane Burgos recently leave for the PFL. We've obviously seen the rise and the star power that Loughnane has recently had, Brendan Loughnane, in the PFL after he was turned away from the UFC. So these fighters, it's kind of they're setting a new precedent, right? The UFC has always been the premier MMA organization, fighting organization, whatever you want to call it. So it's kind of new territory for people to step away, particularly in their prime or before they're kind of washed and they just need a big paycheck. So it's kind of key to see someone as big as Ngannou, the current UFC heavyweight champion, to do so and be successful with it. So I feel like it's almost key that this goes well so that other people can also have success going forward. So Ngannou to the PFL, big announcement coming soon. If that's not the case and you feel like he's signing with someone else, please let me know what you think and keep an eye out. I think the big announcement coming soon is Ngannou to the PFL.